Hello, I think we're live now. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here with us this evening. This is exciting and new for us for Vision Zero with this technology to talk to you directly. I'm Andrew Barksdale, right here, the one talking. I'm a spokesman with DOT, and I'm going to kind of moderate tonight. We're going to go up till 8 o'clock, and then, or we'll end earlier if we answer all your questions. And I just want to go through this, let you guys know that, as you can see, we've got an all-star panel. These are just experts of Robeson County. They live and work there. They've traveled there numerous times, and you can see their names and their video. We're all doing this remotely, but you'll see all these folks here on the slide, and they're all available for answering questions. But before we begin, we're going to have two quick presentations from Grady and Kevin first with slides, and then we'll go straight to questions. But you can see we do have other experts here. You may know these people as well. Just some quick ground rules. You may want to close some other applications on your device or laptop so you can see all the video. If you're using Wi-Fi, it works better. For this forum, which is our first one, we're not going to have our audience members chime in with conversations this time, but we're excited that we can get questions from you, and we're interested in wanting to know how you want to be safer and what's going on. And you can see with this feature on your right, there's the chat box. It's like the last little box on the bottom right-hand side. And if you click on that, and there's a little drop down, if you click on this little caret, it's like a drop down menu, and you have different choices. You click send question to staff, and that's when you can send questions. If we can take them anonymously, but if you want to, you can put in your question. Hey, I'm so-and-so with so-and-so organization, and we will do that as well. It is being recorded because we're going to post this on our website later, and we may not get, we're going to try to get to all questions, but if we don't get to a question, or maybe it's off topic or something, we will get back to you. We will definitely respond to you. We may not, obviously won't do it tonight if we don't get to all your questions, but you can email me right here, AC Barksdale, and we'll have that at the end of the presentation too. You can go ahead and write that down, AC Barksdale, for questions that that don't get answered tonight. So with that, I'm just going to pass the baton over to Grady. Everyone knows Grady Hunt, well known in Robeson County, and I'll shut up.
Thanks, Andrew. Welcome, everybody. Like Andrew said, this is a new venture for us, so be patient with us. We may not get it all right, but we're going to do our best. Just looking at the first slide, you can see the fatalities in the county have dropped for the past 2 years. In 2017, which is the year before we started our Vision Zero campaign, we had 53 accidents. 2018, we had 48. In 2019, we had 43. Our goal's always been zero. That's our Vision Zero. And we know that's aspirational, but that's where we want to get. We know it's not going to be easy. We know it's not going to happen overnight, but we've got to work hard to make sure we do our best to get there. But unfortunately, we've not had the best start in 2020. As you'll see on the screen, last year at this time, we had 10 crashes and 10 fatalities. This year, we've had 13 crashes and 16 fatalities. So we've had 6 more fatalities this year than we did last year. Now, one of the problems that has been a problem not only here but across the state is speeding. Since the governor instituted the stay-at-home order earlier, people have complied, and generally there's been about 50% less cars on the road. But with fewer cars on the road, people have started speeding excessively on the empty roads, and that's just not been a good thing for us. Now, the traffic trends this spring, like I said, it's not been good. And what do we attribute that to? Well, like I said, one of the things that we have to attribute it to is speeding, not only here like I said, across the state. What's interesting is for 2020, we've had less traffic accidents. We've only had 1,186 accidents up to this point this year, where we had 1,489 last year. But obviously, they've been more, worse crashes because, again, the deaths last year were 10 at this time, and this year it's 16. So we're seeing some disturbing trends. Driving distracted is a very disturbing trend. And you can imagine what that is. Mostly that's folks using cell phones and texting while they're driving. The other thing that we've seen is a spike in lane departures, crossing the center lane, going off road. In fact, this year through April, we've had 10 traffic deaths related to lane departures versus 3 for the same period last year. So this is a very disturbing trend for us. But we've made great strides in the last 2 years, countywide, using our Vision Zero initiative. And we just don't want to lose that momentum. We've got, now that the governor's easing the stay-at-home restrictions, we're going to have more people traveling. We're going to have more people on the road. The roads are going to be busier. So our mission is more vital now than it's ever been. So driving safely has to be front and center, and we've got to maintain our focus. The Department of Transportation has created some short videos for our county. The first video I'm going to show you is about the dangers of driving too fast. Again, speed kills, and that's the essence of that video. The second video was only created a couple weeks ago, and the story here is we should never get behind the wheel after consuming alcohol. This video is promoted by DOT on social media, and you can find it on our website for Robeson County Vision Zero. And we do have to be smart, and we do have to be vigilant, and we've got to be mindful of speeding, distracted driving, and of course, drunk driving. So let me just recap a couple things that happened last year. We had a very successful 2019 campaign. Kudos to Southeastern Health and the Governor's Highway Safety Program. They brought back our seatbelt diversion program. That's a program that was in place several years ago. They brought it back, and it's been very successful. Before the pandemic, we had 240 people that attended that class, and that class was obviously shut down because of the pandemic, but it'll be beginning very soon. We plan to restart the program here in the county. The other program, again funded by the Governor's Highway Safety Program, is our new DWI treatment court. This has been an effort between the Governor's Highway Safety Program and our DA's office, and our District Attorney Matt Scott really bought into this program. So far, we've had 6 people in the program, but again, it was kind of put on hold with the pandemic, but we plan to begin the program back very soon. You'll also see that we've got our RAC cards, and our RAC cards have all been now printed in Spanish as well as English. And we've had great discussions about the safety of our roads, doing different safety measures, whether it's roundabouts, whether it's crosswalks, just different things to better make our roads more safe. Another initiative that we've had last year was studying 2 roads that have been very deadly for us here in the county. NC Highway 711 that runs between Pembroke and Lumberton, and in the Great Marsh Church Road, which is in the northern part of the county. We've also benefited greatly from the public schools of Robeson County High School Dream Teams. They've been very active at the schools and just getting the message out to the students that they just need to be more careful, more safer, and drive safer on our roads. You can learn more about all these initiatives by going to our website that's up on the screen. And also you can watch our videos if you go to the website. Another great campaign has been a partnership between, again, the Governor's Highway Safety Program and our local transportation, the SEATS program here in Robeson County. They wrapped our several of their buses with the campaign about buckling up, because seatbelt usage is a problem here in the county, and the theme on the side of the buses is don't rob Robeson County of more lives. So we very much appreciate SEATS for being a great partner in this effort. Now, that concludes my presentation. And before we take any questions, let's hear from Kevin Lacey. Kevin is our state traffic engineer. Kevin's quite familiar with our county and has been attending our Vision Zero meetings. So welcome to Kevin Lacey.
Thank you, Grady. Again, I'm Kevin Lacey. I'm going to talk a little bit about some possibilities that could include a success story, or could include a tragedy, or maybe a little bit of both. COVID-19. If you've not heard of COVID-19, then where have you been? Yeah, we're going to start studying this as a nation, as a planet, and we will second guess our decisions. We're going to ask the what if questions for years to come, and we'll spend untold millions of dollars trying to find out, what is going on and how can we plan for future events. For whatever reason, I'm not able to advance this slide, Jamil.
Kevin, if you click your mouse on, do you click your mouse over the slides? Have you tried that?
All right.
Does that work?
Yes. But I'm going to suggest to you that we've already learned something very important about this, that we have the ability to affect large-scale health threats. Here's another item that you should be very familiar with now, flattening the curve. I think it was in every article for about 6 weeks earlier this year, but the whole concept is we're going to flatten the curve, where we're going to stretch out the number of people who are being sick so we don't overburden our health system, so the people in the healthcare system can have a better outcome. So the people who are up here, you got fewer doctors per person to treat the folks when the system is over stressed. Down here, you have a better chance of survival. And the other thing it does is it stretches out time-wise. You can see this is a longer timeline. It also gives you a chance for science to catch up and come up with treatments. So you're saying, well, Kevin, what does this have to do with crashes? We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but what I wanted to show is some examples of how we've been successful as a state. Here's North Carolina over here. this first column is deaths per million population, and the highlighted states are those that are above the national average. The second column is death outcomes, percentage of people who got sick who have died. And again, the highlighted are above the national average. You can see North Carolina, we're at the bottom of on the second half of the chart. It's not a population issue. We're 9th in population. You see some states that have fewer population, some that have higher. Texas is over here, California is over here. It's not a density issue because California has some very dense cities. So does Texas and others. And so it's choices that folks make. And I'm not saying that these states did things wrong because we knew nothing about this virus 6 months ago. So back to that question, what does this have to do with motor vehicle crashes, injuries, and deaths, specifically in Robeson County? Well, I'm back to making the argument that if we can mitigate the effects of a highly contagious virus during a pandemic and save lives, we can also manage another public health issue in our state, and that's motor vehicle crashes. We need to treat motor vehicle crashes like a public health issue. Too many people are dying, too many people are getting injured, too many people are losing loved ones on our roadways. Well, Kevin, a lot of folks just look at motor vehicle crashes as it's a way of life. If you're going to drive on the road, then crashes will occur. It's inevitable. That's a lot of, I hear that a lot from people who don't believe we have the ability to control this, that, crashes, deaths, and injuries are just a way of life. And I say they're wrong. And here's some examples I'll use, and again, some correlations with COVID-19. Mr. Grady mentioned that, staying home and avoiding it reduced the traffic. Grady was absolutely right. This is from the state perspective. You look at, this is how much traffic was reduced. And this is on a statewide scale. Some cities, some counties had a much higher percent reduction in travel. 45, 50%, some were much higher in some spots. This chart over here is the number of crashes that we've seen across the state. And these are some pretty healthy reductions, 50%, 60% year over year. And in the urban areas, slightly more reduction than in the rural areas. But a 40% and 20% reduction in crashes is a very healthy, very positive outcome. Unfortunately, that didn't play out in severe and fatal injury crashes. This is the tragedy, folks. When we saw the vast reduction in crashes or in travel and reduction in crashes, we did not get that reduction in fatalities and severe injuries. If you look at those type crashes, you couldn't tell that we had a worldwide pandemic that put millions of people out of work, has killed thousands of people in our state, decimated our economy, and created a lot of uncertainty for the future. Folks, that's a tragedy. We should have seen these numbers go down as much, if not more, than what we saw in crashes in general. And those are things that we have to change. So what did we do in the pandemic that we're not doing with crashes? And I think that's a question that we ought to be asking. Here's some numbers, just like I showed you with the COVID numbers. Here are our crash numbers. This is for 3 years. Here's North Carolina. We're 5th in just pure numbers across the country. But when you look at it per 100,000 population, we're number 19. Some people may say, well, that's pretty good since we're number 9 in population. Well, when you look at it in per 100,000 population, there's not much difference between number 19 and number 10, or even when you start looking at those numbers. But look over on this side of the table. This is where we want to be. When we look at the folks like, we'll take Washington State, which is almost half of what we have. Just think if instead of 1,400 people, only 700 people died on our roadways. What about a third? How about only 350 people? How about zero? That's the long-term vision. We know these numbers are possible right here. New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island. Those states were on the other side of the curve with the COVID, but they have figured out how to get some of their numbers as far as crashes much lower than what we're seeing in our state. So one of the things that we've all heard, again, flattening the curve or some new terms, but something that may not sound so normal is social norms. When Dr. Cohen and the governor and others are saying, wash your hands frequently, social distancing, pay attention to and clean surfaces frequently, know and follow local guidances. They say it a lot. They repeat it frequently because they're creating these social norms. Well, think about this. Mr. Hunt had mentioned wear your seatbelt, every seat, every time. That we need to normalize that. We need to normalize don't speed or don't follow too closely. Normalize paying attention or, don't drive distracted. Some of those social norms would be things like it is normal for people to wear their seatbelts when riding a motor vehicle. When we get in a car and we see someone not in a seatbelt, we should say something. If we're the driver, we definitely should say something, because if we were to get hit by somebody, that person's liable to kill us inside the car. If we're in a car and someone is speeding, let's say something. It's crashes involving speeding are way too frequent across our state and across the country. Grady also mentioned the distractions. If we're riding in the car and someone is talking on the phone, fiddling with some other device, they too they're risking your life while they're risking theirs as well. If you're talking to somebody on the phone and you're driving down the highway, again, you're taking on a lot of risk that maybe that phone call can wait, or just stick it in the trunk. That's what some folks do. It's normal to be clear-headed when we're operating a motor vehicle. We heard a lot before the COVID-19 opioids and how many people were dying from that. Drug and driving is a major issue, just like drinking and driving, and distracted driving. Whatever takes your attention off the driving task is a threat to your life and the people in your car when you're driving a vehicle. It is a clear threat. Unfortunately, we do have some norms in highway safety. It is normal that people who aren't doing those behaviors that we talk about, that they do wreck. On this planet, there's over 1 million people die a year in car crashes. In our state, over 1,400 people are dying each year in car crashes. Unfortunately, it's normal when people are in crashes that they do get killed. They are hurt. One of the leading causes of death, it's either number 1 or number 2 for people from the ages of 1 to 44 in our state. So I'm not 44 anymore. I'm just 45, a little bit older than that. But if you got family and friends and kids and grandkids, the leading cause of death for people in that age group is motor vehicle crashes. So how do we get a handle on this health issue that is killing and injuring our families? Again, I think it is, we got to treat it very much like a major health issue. And I want to thank folks like Mr. Grady Hunt and the Vision Zero team in Robeson County. It takes leadership. I thank you for your leadership. There's not many communities across this country that are doing what you're doing, that said enough is enough and started working to reduce these crashes. It should never have been left up to just the DOTs, North Carolina DOT and law enforcement. I know the men and women in both of these agencies work very, very hard to make our roads safe, but there's just not enough people, not enough money. We're not willing to put that type of money in it to reduce, to make every trip absolutely safe. We all could not afford that. We have too many other demands for our tax dollars. Again, it takes leadership. Mr. Hunt, the Vision Zero team, Robeson County, thank you for that leadership, but it also takes everyone's commitment to move these forward. Let's start pushing these other social norms about highway safety. When you're getting in a car, when you're riding with someone else, enforce those norms. Hey, it's normal. And if they say, well, it's not normal for me, then you need to say, well, it's normal for me. Let's start doing it. I love you. I care for you. I want you to be here tomorrow. So again, thank you. And we'll be glad to have answer questions and so forth.
All right, I'm back. Kevin, that was great. And you don't look a day over 45. And,
my doctor says I'm in great shape to be 90 years old. The bad news is I'm only 54.
For our other panelists, you can turn your camera back on. Grady, oh, there's Grady. There's Grady, our main host and leader, and Greg Burns, the Division 6 engineer. Again, we're just gonna jump right into the questions. We want to take your questions. We do have a question right now, and I believe I'm gonna read it. And this comes from a Miss Rebels in the community, and the question is, what can we do to use seats to provide safe rides home for riders under the influence? SEATS is an acronym for the Public Transportation of Robeson County. Their mini bus systems, but that's trying to control drunk driving. So we thought the sergeant might just give a quick response to that. Sergeant Lewis, can you tackle that one?
Can you repeat that question, please? I had to step out the color light.
What can we do to use SEATS? That's the public transportation in Robeson County to provide safe riders home who may be under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I don't think they probably work at night, so I'm not sure the best way to answer that, but maybe why don't you give that a shot, Sergeant?
I don't have a whole lot of familiarization with the SEATS program itself. I think in a lot of larger towns, you have different ride sharing, such as Uber, Lyft, things of that nature. And we really don't have that in Robeson County. And I don't know that there's really a great market for it in Robeson County. If there was, I'm sure somebody would have already done it. We really need to take a little bit of responsibility for ourselves, and as not some, maybe even more so for our friends and our family. And designate yourself. Be willing to designate yourself as a designated driver. Be willing to go out with your friends and be that guy that takes the responsibility of ensuring a safe ride home for your friends or your family member or someone of that sort. But as far as the SEATS program itself, I don't have a whole lot of familiarization with that entity.
No, that's fine, Sergeant. I'm glad you gave us some advice about trying to not be under the influence and behind the wheel at the same time. I'm gonna do another question. Grady, we got a question for you, kind of a totally different topic, but the Robeson County Task Force, you formed it about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I guess, maybe. And it's a county-wide effort. Can you just talk briefly about what that means county-wide and why that's important? Why is that? How is that going to help the cause that you are trying to create in Robeson County?
Well, I'll take issue with one thing you said. I created it. We created it.
Okay, great.
Lots of help from my friends at DOT, my friends with the State Patrol, the Sheriff's Office, the DA's office, the Governor's Highway Safety Program, Southeastern Health. It's been a collaborative effort. And that's the only way that we can ever talk to everybody. regardless of where we find you, east, west, south, or north, it's got to be a collaborative effort for all of us coming together. And it's aspirational. We said that from the beginning, and we just know we had a problem. When we're #1 in the state 5 years in a row for deaths per capita for our population, that's just not where you want to be. We're better than that. We've got to be better than that. We owe it to friends, family, folks that we work with. And so that collaboration has been across the board. And, you know, I'm thankful for that collaboration because, you know, when we look at where we started at 53 deaths and look where we landed last year at 43, if you look at those 2 years alone, that's 10 people in 1 year and 5 in the other. That's 15 lives. We don't know who those lives could have been. So with our collaborative efforts, I think we've made a positive impact, and we just got to keep reaching out, keep partnering, keep collaborating, and just making it work the best we can.
Great, Grady, thank you for that. Very great collaboration and partnerships are key. So I'm going to ask another question that we had some questions in advance, and we're still taking you in the audience. Please use the chat feature to do that. So Mark Azell, you're the Governor's Highway Safety Program Director. Your program does a lot of campaigns. We don't have time to go over all of them. You know, Booze It and Lose It, Click It or Ticket are famous. But how are these campaigns working to affect change and change driving behaviors in Robeson County and across the state?
Well, they've been very successful. The Click It or Ticket and Booze It and Lose It campaign have been around for over 25 years, and they've saved thousands of lives. It's estimated that over 400 people a year are saved as a result of the Click It or Ticket program alone. But what we really need to do, and what I want us to do, is to individualize programs as much as we can, as Grady mentioned, in this case at the county level. You know, the things that you need in Robeson County may not be the same things you need in Wake County, may not be the same things you need in Dare County. So the more we can individualize programs, the better off we are. The suggestion about seats is an interesting one, because one of the things that has been very successful in other counties, especially small rural counties where you know you don't have enough volume to have a robust Uber or Lyft program, is to have volunteers who work either with a university or with a church group or some other group that are serving in a volunteer ride sharing capacity. So what we've done basically is, working with this committee's direction, is help create some programs that are really Robeson County specific. You know, the seatbelt diversion program is one that, you know, we're not funding anything similar to that in North Carolina. It's just in Robeson County. We'd love to potentially move it to other counties if they're interested. But the seatbelt diversion program is unique because it fits in a need. The statistics have shown that Robeson County has had more unbelted seatbelt deaths per capita than a lot of other counties. The DWI Court is something that's very successful. You know, you don't have a lot of numbers there, but you have a really high impact. And so we're very excited about where that can go. But the trick is a combination of doing those things to prevent people from engaging in behaviors on the road they should not be engaging in, and also have the stick of enforcement to, at the very least, let people know that law enforcement's out there. You know, if you know that the law enforcement's out there and you know you're going out to dinner tonight, you may not have that extra drink if you know that they're out there during the course of a campaign. So that's part of what Click It or Ticket and Booze It and Lose It does. And we're excited about, in the future, personalizing more campaigns that are Robeson County specific.
Thank you. I've got a question back. This may be back for the sergeant again. This is from a doctor in who's an emergency medicine resident, and he's asking about pediatric deaths. So, you know, there may be Sergeant, are you seeing, you know, what is the trend on children dying in crashes? Are we seeing any issues there with them not being in car seats? That may be kind of what they're talking about. Is it just sort of adults that are not making good decisions, drunk driving, or are children being involved with this? I don't know who might be Sergeant or maybe Kevin, but there's
Yeah,
different
you
spots.
know, I know this past week we had a fairly well publicized fatality in which a 6-year-old child was killed in a motor vehicle accident. In that particular case, specifically, she was restrained by wearing of a lap belt. The case itself, or the report itself, is still, or the event is still under investigation. So to make any further statements on that, I'm a little hesitant to at this time because all of the still pending with some of the evidentiary process. But I will say regarding Robeson County specifically, within the highway patrol's realm, for those people that are not familiar, we operates in individual counties, sometimes 2 county districts, and then we operate in larger wholes, which are referred to as troops. This part of the state is referred to as Troop B, and that encompasses basically the southeastern North Carolina, anywhere from Harnett County down to Brunswick County, Robeson County included, over to as far east as Onslow at the coast. The really trying thing that brings as much heartburn to me, I suppose you might say, regarding the child restraints and lack their use of, is that Robeson County, on a weekly basis, my troopers cite more people for child restraint violations than anywhere else inside of Troop B, and it's not even close. Up until the COVID epidemic really struck, and that affected some of the output or the effectiveness of my guys being able to work safely, we led all of Troop B, southeastern part of the state again, and seatbelt violations issued, as well as child restraint. Now, those other areas, Cumberland County, they were fairly close in seatbelt citations issued, but nowhere was anybody even close to us in child restraint violations. I've been to several over the course of my career involving small children, but I feel like we've really, over the years, we have dodged bullets as far as just the society in this part of the state with the lack of use of child restraints, because so often people will put their kids in their child seats and their carriers, buckle them in properly, but then they don't fasten the seat to the car. So that means all that's going to happen in the event of a wreck is your child is going to start bouncing around inside the car, inside the child's seat. And that is just as dangerous as not being in a seatbelt at all to some extent. But as far Robeson County, that is a concern of mine, and that is a special emphasis of mine to my guys, that we really focus heavily on our, you like my special guest in the back. We really focus on child restraint violations because we have really sincerely dodged bullets over the last few years with this. And I really can sincerely hope this is something that we can get a handle on. Now, we don't currently this year, we haven't had any fatalities involving children not properly fastened. Again, the one that happened this past week, the child was properly fastened. It was just a traumatic event that she wasn't going to survive.
Thank you, Sergeant. That's an issue that this task force can take up later, I think. You raise a good point. Changing topics, next question, Grady. This is something that our audience needs to know. How can someone in the community get involved with the Vision Zero program? What's the best way for someone that if they want to come and speak or learn more or attend a meeting? What would you recommend? What do you tell folks?
Your email's on the your email's on the screen right now. All they have to do is send you an email with their contact information, and we'll add them to our list. And for each meeting, we'll send out an email, or if they don't have email, a text, and just make them aware of the location and time. And we welcome everybody to our meetings.
Great, Grady. Let me see. Some good questions. This is, I think this is Dr. Cummings, UNC Pembroke Chancellor, if I have that right. His question is, what is going on with our new, with the new DUI court? Do we need to get more punitive on tickets for not adequately restraining? I think, is he referring to the DUI treatment court that GHSP funded with the DA, or do we need to get more punitive on tickets for not adequately restraining, which I think they means a seatbelt. So anybody want to chime in on that? I think that was in the slides, Grady. There were 6 people in that DWI treatment court, the DA told me recently.
And that's in its very infant stages, I would say. So we're just beginning that. That's something new to us, and Mark can talk more about that program. But that's a new program and one that's needed because, the treatment's very needed in our county, I would say. So I'll let just Mark talk with that.
And so with DWI treatment courts, there are significant restrictions on who may be able to go through it. But those people who are chosen for the DWI treatment court receive a variety of different services. They receive treatment, as Grady mentioned. They receive, if they need employment, they receive that. If they need to be hooked up with childcare or other issues, they'll receive some of those. It's kind of an opportunity for wraparound services for people that the court feels can recover and become productive members of society if they address their alcohol issues. So we're very excited about that. To Dr. Cummings' point about child restraints, one of the things that's done in many other counties, I'm going to have to go back and research whether or not this is done in Robeson County. I believe it is. But there is a program that is similar to the diversion court for seatbelts, but specifically for child passenger safety. So anyone who is ticketed for that brings the ticket to a child passenger safety technician. And North Carolina has the largest number of child passenger safety technicians in each state in the union. So bring that. Oftentimes your local fire department or EMS are trained as child passenger safety technicians. And those folks will train parents how to properly put that in the car, and in some cases can actually provide for those who financially need assistance, can provide a car seat for them. The thing to remember, though, with car seats is a lot of that is dependent on age and weight of the child. So being able to make sure that you have the child properly restrained can be tricky, and it, of course, changes. But EPS or EMS technicians, fire departments are very important partners in CPS. And so part of what we can do is look at the court system and see if maybe we can get the court system involved in this type of diversion program. What we want to do, we're not interested in writing tickets just to write tickets. We're interested in saving people's lives. And if writing that ticket helps do that, then it's certainly worth it.
On this topic, pediatric injuries, there's we have a doctor from Southeastern Health, emergency physician, emergency department. And she's asking, do we have any kind of specific initiatives addressing children injuries? They're beginning a research project at the Southeastern Health ER department, and they're definitely wanting to work with a team to improve safety of children. And they're seeing a lot of children being injured in traffic accidents. So I think we've talked about that. I know we can reach out to this person later. Unless there's anything else to add. I know there's different. Sounds like we have some initiatives.
I just got a text from one of our assistant district attorneys here in the county, and she informs me that there is a car seat class through the Lumberton Fire Department for infants. So there is a program through the Lumberton Fire Department. And I'm sure other departments are doing the same thing as far as showing folks how to properly install the child seats and that kind of thing. And just to kind of piggyback on Mark's comments with our seatbelt diversion program, that's one bite at the apple. So it's not like every time you get a seatbelt violation, you're going to be able to go back to the class. That's a one-time deal. And again, 240 folks have taken advantage of it. So we think it's working. And I'm glad Sergeant Lewis emphasized the child seat issue, because that's just an issue that, quite honestly, we've not looked at. And we probably do need to look at it and see what help we can bring to that area.
And Andrew, if you can give me the name of the doctor who's asking that question, we can make sure that the doctor is working with some experts that we work closely with.
Andrew, this is Kevin. I'd like to make a comment on the restraints and belts. It's just, we will never have enough police, nor do we ever want that many police that every person that's out on the roadway will be stopped and inspected for their seatbelt use. Just like all traffic laws, we're really dependent upon voluntary compliance. And how do we convince people to do it, routinely? How do we make that the social norm? I'm looking at some data for, restrained versus unrestrained in our state. Every age group, the percentage of people involved in wrecks that are killed, it's at least twice as many that are unrestrained as far as the proportion than it is that those are restrained. So if you do nothing but the only behavior you change is putting on your seatbelt, that is a major step forward. We of course would love for you to do all the other ones too, but the most important thing that you can do to save your life is make sure you got a seatbelt on and the people in the car with you have a seatbelt on. There's not going to be enough law enforcement. There's not going to be enough stop signs. There's not going to be enough highway dollars to come up with that much of an improvement than just simply clicking your seatbelt.
Real quickly, Kevin, since we have you speaking there, lane departures, driving distracted and lane departures are going up in Robeson County. That's one of the issues. What can you just talk about what's going on there and what can be, what the department can do about that and what people should be doing and why that's kind of an increase, but some good warnings about that.
I'll talk about some generalities, and the Vision Zero in Robeson County is touched on the three key factors. We looked at secondary roads, rural roads, and rural crashes on a number of occasions, and I know it doesn't surprise law enforcement, probably doesn't surprise emergency medical or the fire departments, people who respond to these crashes, is that over 3/4 of the crashes that involve a fatality involve one of those three key behaviors, and that includes lane departure. Across our state, lane departure crashes make up about 52% of the fatalities in our state. So that's over 700 a year, where people are running off the road, hitting a tree, hitting guardrail, hitting another car, hitting something and dying on our highways. So things that we're doing from an engineering perspective, we are making additional investments in things such as improving the pavement markings. But Mr. Burns there cannot make a pavement marking bright enough to keep a car on the road by itself. It's just not possible. That driver in that car seat, the most important part of an automobile is between the steering wheel and the driver's seat, and that is the operator. So again, the reduced injuries and fatalities, we got to buckle up, pay attention. Driving task is a very difficult task that we do so often that we don't realize the inherent risk that's involved. But anytime that we're driving a bit faster than we can see and respond, those are issues. Roadsides, North Carolina is a rural state. We got folks who live in Robeson County is a rural state. We got people that live all over the place. A lot of our roads were never designed by an engineer. They may have been a farm to market road that grew up, and now we got 10,000 of our newest neighbors riding on that road every day. These are the challenges that the Division of Highways that we deal with on a regular basis. And again, there's an unlimited demand on a limited resource, and that's where it takes everybody. This, as I said, this is not a DOT. This is not an enforcement issue alone. This is everybody involved. All hands on deck. Wash your hands frequently. Buckle your seat belts. Pay attention. Those are the critical things. We can save billions of dollars by doing some behavioral things, and as far as reducing injuries and fatalities that we cannot accomplish through engineering. It's and there's lots of needs out there. So go ahead,
Kevin. Yeah, Kevin, thank you. And just real quickly, I wanted Greg Burns, the Division 6 engineer, to tackle this quick question. Greg, what are some other things? I know it's a multi-pronged attack, changing behavior, engineering design, law enforcement initiatives, but on this same theme, Greg, what are some pretty effective but relatively low-cost ways that NCDOT can improve the safety of roadways for drivers and pedestrians? Some of the tools in our toolbox that we're seeing in Robeson County. Just very briefly.
Okay, Andrew, thank you. Every month we have a committee that meets in the division. It involves, DOT staff, city staffs, planning organizations. We get input from Highway Patrol, from the public, from all. And with that information, we investigate locations, and many of the improvements that we have done have been things like always stops, roundabouts. We did a very good treatment down in UNC Pembroke on Prospect Road, converting that to a more pedestrian-friendly roadway. So numerous treatments like that have tremendous improvement to that specific location. But it takes, like Kevin said, you can't totally engineer out the accidents. It takes the involvement of the person getting behind the wheel and being responsible, buckling that seat belt, driving the appropriate speed limit, because many of the improvements that we actually do with the intention, implement with the intention of making the road safer, like brighter pavement marking lines or 2-foot widening, what happens there sometimes is the driver actually feels more comfortable and they speed up, and it results in more accidents. So regardless of what kind of treatment, what kind of improvement we put in place, it takes a lot of involvement from the public and the person getting behind that wheel.
All right,
And if
Greg,
I can piggyback,
oh, go ahead.
if I can make in regards to Mr. Burns and Mr. Lacey, when they were talking about the public necessarily need to involve themselves and you can't engineer everything out. I know between January 19th of this year, which was our first fatality within the county, not including the city limits, incorporated city limits of Robeson County, we had 11 fatalities. Now, on each rec report, when we fill out doing a fatality, we have the potential of listing up to 3 contributing circumstances, regardless of what they are. Now, of those 11 fatalities, we listed 19 contributing circumstances. 10 of those contributing circumstances were directly related to the driver's behavior, whether it is overcorrecting, which is you run off the road to the right because you were paying attention to your cell phone as opposed to what you should have been doing or what have you, and then you overcorrect the vehicle. Reckless behavior on the part of the driver or inattention. And all these factors are just legitimately driver related. Playing on your cell phone. This past week, in the course of about 10 minutes, riding through Lumberton, I pulled up beside 2 different people in my patrol car, and they couldn't get off the phone long enough, stop texting, stop watching videos to see that I was beside them. Both of them driving right by Lumberton High School. They drove at least a measured quarter of a mile before I decided, yeah, that's enough. I can prove that in court. So props to all the engineers that do the roundabouts. I've seen, in fact, one road where they have put the rumble strips on the fog line as well as the center line to try to draw drivers' attentions, but you can't drive the car for them. That's something we have to take care of. We have to take responsibility for our own actions as far as that goes.
Yeah, and Andrew, this is Kevin again. I think we all accept our roles and responsibilities, and I know all the gentlemen speaking today do, and it's not our intent to say that it's someone else. We realize that there's things that we can do, and we are doing them. Again, if we increase taxes by 100%, we can do more, but that's not the direction that we're talking about. What we're talking about is that our families live in these in the neighborhoods and the communities, and I hope we all tell our families the same things we're saying today. I know I do. I have some in-laws that when they were young, they would say, well, you got to buckle up because Uncle Kevin's in the car. And I would tell every one of those nieces and nephews, because I love you. And they grow up wearing their seatbelts now. But that wasn't the norm for them unless Uncle Kevin was in the car. But we're not blaming the people driving on the road. We're saying these are the ways to be successful, and we have to and we're saying we need your help. We're begging for your help, and that's where it takes the leadership of the community to enlist that help for us. Because I will admit, A1, that I cannot do it. I cannot be successful without the help of the community. And I would say Mark and Sergeant Lewis and I know Mr. Burns, we cannot be successful in reducing injuries and fatalities on our highways without your help.
That's a great way to end it. But I just want to ask this one last question for the public. We briefly talked about how the Lumberton Fire Department has a child safety class for their car seats. Is there anything else for the public to know? Is there any other type of training besides the seatbelt car seats that can reduce crashes and injuries that the public should be aware of in Robeson County? I mean, somebody could just spout off an example so they can look it up online or something. And that'll be our last question. Anybody else? Anybody know about that? Lewis, maybe Sergeant Lewis.
So the DWI Court, the treatment court, and the seatbelt diversion program through Southeastern Health are obviously two that come to mind.
There was actually a program that was being run through a former NASCAR driver who had lost their child due to a motor vehicle accident. It was a driving program for 16 and 17-year-olds, young drivers, that was being run off of the Highway Patrol's driving track in Raleigh. Here recently, it hasn't, for obvious reasons. That program hasn't been continued at this point. But in the event that it does, I'd be more than happy to share that information.
There are a good number of programs, Andrew. We're happy to get that list. I'm going to, one of the research projects that I've tasked myself with is to get names and locations for CPS technicians throughout Robeson County. And I'm sure that there are other programs. And if there's a program that needs to be there that isn't now, that's part of the beauty of this task force. You can let us know that, and we can look into figuring out ways to create it.
Very good, everybody. Thank you so much. An all-star panel. The hour flew by, and just to remind you, you can see my email address if you have follow-up questions or you want to get in touch with Sergeant Lewis or find out about different programs. You weren't sure exactly who the speaker was or what the program was. Just reach out to me, and I can maybe forward the emails to the right subject matter experts that can help you out, and we can get you involved with Vision Zero and on the contact list for upcoming meetings. We haven't met this spring because we had to cancel our meetings during the pandemic, which is why we're doing this forum right now, which is a great new opportunity to reach out even more people. So again, thank you, everybody, and we're just going to go ahead and end. Have a good night, everybody, and be safe driving home. Oh, that's right. We're already home. Never mind. Have a good night. Thank you,
Good
everybody.
night.
Thanks.
I'm gonna say, why don't you tell me this?